And looks like we are coming up. Hey, you're
Hi.
up.
Hi, everybody. Are we actually live? Because it still says just scheduled.
We are.
We are live, and
Okay.
yes, we're rolling.
Well, hello, everybody. I'm Tammy Nemeth, and today we are talking about the energy realities and the real climate claptrapping, which is climate alarm. And we're going to be talking about this with the amazing Irina Slav. Hello, Irina. How are you today?
Hi, Tammy. I'm great. Thank you.
That's awesome. And then, of course, we have the great Stu Turley. Stu, how are you today?
Well, I'll pay you later, Tammy. Thank you very much.
And unfortunately, we don't have David here. He's off gallivanting on a cruise ship. Go figure, tormenting the people in Spain or something. So it's just the three of
Somewhere
us
in Europe.
today.
I think he's going to gain 10 pounds because he's out cruising around looking for things in Spain.
Yeah, I could see that. I could totally see that. So, Irina had this great story today where she had found an article in the Financial Times where the climate alarmists have come up with a new term, and that's climate claptrap. And when I first read that headline, I'm like, wow, the Financial Times is going after climate alarmists because they're always spewing climate claptrap. And then it turns out, apparently, that's a new term to go after anybody who questions the energy transition and all the different climate alarm stuff that comes out. So apparently, if you're instead of a climate denier, they're now throwing out this new term, which is climate claptrap. So Irina, can you speak a little bit about that amazing story?
Amazing is the right word, Tammy. Yes, the author of this story was really outraged at the fact that some people, some high profile people, no less, such as Elon Musk and Donald Trump, are questioning the transition. They're questioning climate change and its disastrous effects on humanity. And she basically did an 8 to 1,000 word rant on that, because questioning the energy transition is obviously unacceptable.
Yeah.
And even though criticisms that she mentions, the author mentions in this story, are perfectly valid about the unreliability of so-called renewables, about the very urgency of the transition,
Yeah.
the urgency of climate change. These are all valid criticisms, valid points that scientists, climate scientists are making, but it doesn't matter. The narrative shall not be challenged. That's the message that I got from that story, and I felt obliged to thrash it, which I did. As
And
I
you did it, and you did it so well.
Thank
That
you,
was so
thank
fun.
you. Yeah.
Well, it's interesting because it's the narrative, and you can't even, according to her and a lot of different people like Antonio Guterres and Fatih Birol, you can't even question um, how it's going, the costs of things. They say that you're slowing it down, that you're throwing these monkey wrenches into the transition and this progress that they're making. Stu, what was your take on this article?
I'm tired of it. I am tired of one way discussions when actually we need to have an open discussion from everybody. We're net zero is not going to happen. I'm sorry for breaking the internet on this, an urgent thing. AI has sealed the doom for net zero. We need too much power. Let's take Texas. Even though Texas has got a big sigh of relief because David Blackman is in Spain, we're like, yay! We're still going to, as Tom Mumford just said, who wants to bet that David won't come up with more one energy absurdity while gallivanting in Spain? Well said, Tom.
And no one.
We I can't wait. I always read his stuff. And steal it. It's so much fun. But one of the big things that's coming around from this discussion point is we need all forms of energy. We need wind, we need solar in the right places, in the right mix. The grid requires physics and fiscal responsibility. The grid is not discriminatory, and it is going to work if you do not have fiscal responsibility and physics. You will have blackouts. Did I
Yes.
say that?
Did you say that out loud?
Very high prices as well.
And the prices.
And the price, but we can, Irina and Tammy, what frustrates me is I have an open invitation to my podcast. If you are a energy expert, if you believe in yourself, in your products, in your wind, in your solar, come on to my podcast. I want to talk facts. I want it. Sell me. Tell me why we need to have absolutely more wind and more solar. And I want to challenge any wind expert. If you can make an iPhone, okay, if you can make an iPhone out of a windmill, let me know. I want to know.
Without the use of hydrocarbons.
Right. Good luck. Not sure how that's going to work. And yeah, so I mean, it's interesting that it's this criticism of anybody who criticizes the narrative or has a conversation about it. So you're not even allowed to have an open conversation according to the author of that article. But what she's really a mouthpiece for all of the different sort of climate alarm leaders out there, whether it's the head of the UN or the IEA or in the Biden administration or in the Trudeau government or in the new Starmer government or in the EU. It's like if you're even having a conversation, should we do this? Asking open and honest questions about it, that somehow is now a bad thing. And it's like, okay, we can't even talk about it anymore. Everyone just has to get on board and be 100% in for all this the net zero plans. But I mean, David had a bunch of articles this week, even while on holiday, of these absurdities out of the Wall Street Journal and some other publications talking about the failures of hydrogen and various other things. So, Irina, what do you think about how do we go forward with this if this is the attitude that we can't even have an open conversation?
That's what bothers me the most, to tell you the truth, that you're not allowed to question the narrative. You're not allowed to question any part of it. If you question it, if you just ask questions, how is this going to work? How much is it going to cost? Is it really going to work? This automatically, in the minds of these people that push the narrative, it automatically puts you in the denialist camp, or the denier. I don't know what's the right word, or both work. Doesn't matter. But and we, well, not personally, but people like us who do question it, who do ask questions, literally, they are accusing us of getting paid by big oil. As David said, I wish that was the case, but it's not the case. We just wonder how it's going to work and whether it's going to work at all. And we are concluding based on empirical evidence that it is not going to work. So I don't think this is going to go forward in any way resembling the plans. It just cannot. We can see what's happening in Germany. We see what's happening in the UK. I just one of my stories for the headline section today is a story by, was it the BBC? I don't know. But the headline says that it's extreme weather that has caused the 10% increase in Britain's electricity prices.
Right.
And the reliance on oil and gas. Are you serious?
Yeah.
And they're trying to kill it by doing in the UK, windfall profits tax, and people are bailing out of the North Sea.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the windfall profits tax was such a joke when they brought it in because they had it out like there was the war with Russia and Ukraine, and everybody said it was going to be over fairly quickly, which of course is dragging out. But when they brought in the windfall tax, they said it's going to last for 3 years. It's like, well, you're expecting this conflict to exist for at least 3 years, and then they
It
extended it out again.
it was over in a few months. It just came out that Biden sent Boris over and had Zelensky tear up a
Yeah.
peace treaty.
Yeah.
It was already signed, and our president forced their hand to keep it going.
That's not good.
So it would have been over.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah, but
Tom has
Tom has a great comment. Yeah.
he says you're encouraged to question and challenge science, but not propaganda. Regardless of who you are accused of being paid by, why is that an argument that the reality deniers can't withstand?
Because they can't stand the fact that facts oppose the reality that they visualize in their minds. They see it's not working. I mean, you have to be brain dead to not see that it is not working. But this just makes these people double down because they're in such a deep denial.
Yeah, the real deniers, right?
Doubling
Deny
down on
reality.
stupid. I like doubling down on stupid. That's kind of fun.
Yeah, but we all pay for it still, eventually.
Yeah.
Through the nose.
That's the problem. Innocent people pay for it. People who do not need to be experts on energy. They shouldn't all have to be experts on energy.
No,
Yeah.
let's take Secretary Granholm for a second. She
How
has
has she been doing? Haven't heard.
she has the brain power of a potato bud. Absolutely horrifically. She is one of those examples of a person that has been promoted past the Peter principle. She is beyond incompetent. It is sad.
Stiff competition.
When I would make a better energy secretary than she is, because I understand one simple concept. I don't know what that means. Can you explain it to me and give me options? Oh my goodness. Holy smokes, Batman.
But when you surround yourself with people whose options are always in one direction, right? So if she's surrounding herself with people from NRDC and Sierra Club, which there seems to be a revolving door in both the EPA and the Department of Energy from these activist groups, at least when the Democrats are in power,
Right.
then, what kind of options is she receiving? She's receiving any options that will promote this net zero direction, right?
Right.
And we see that also in all the Western countries, where if you have the bureaucracy who's writing the briefing notes saying, well, this is option 1, 2, and 3, and they're all, in the same direction, then you're kind of limited on what choices that you can take if you had a desire to do something different, which
Right.
I don't think she does. I think she just
So
buys into it.
basically, these governments in Europe and the US and Canada, they're turning into giant echo chambers.
Yeah, for sure.
You can't really get anything productive done because these people keep telling you what you want to hear.
What you want to hear or what they
Tell you to hear.
tell you
What
to
they tell you to
hear.
hear. Yeah,
Right.
first they tell you that this is what you need to hear because this is the truth, and they keep telling you it is going to work. It's going to work. It's not working.
Yeah.
The more time passes, the more evidence there is that it's not working.
But then
Not
they
as-
cherry pick the data, right? And so then they'll look at a
Absolutely.
report from like-minded think tanks or something, and they'll say, oh, well, look, this think tank says this, and they've produced this report. But it's not, it's, cherry picking data or misrepresenting things. And I think it's funny that a lot of this, what we're talking about, is always fact checked. And it's fact checked by people who don't know facts, you know?
Yes, yes, I was just going to go into that. Facts don't matter. You give these people facts, like this very, very loud activists on Twitter, Mike Hudema.
Yeah.
He went
Yeah.
and wrote the other day that the Netherlands powered all its trains with 100% wind power. Really? Around the clock, all the time, all trains. This is obviously not a fact. It is a lie. But if you
Right.
dare challenge it, you're being called a denialist or whatever.
Yeah.
This
Well,
is kind
so
of this is kind of
they
like how
rather
I feel. This is my coffee mug. Okay, you got
Are
a
you sure
horse.
you're
Are you sure you want to be the next person to get on my nerves? I swear, I am this person now. This is me looking at climate people that are trying to shove their policies down my throat. Sorry.
I can relate.
I can relate. Yeah, for sure. But I mean, the person that you mentioned is, I think, based out of Canada and is known for sort of cherry picking data. And it's it's kind
Like
of
the
it's a
racism, like
go-to move.
all of them.
Sorry?
Like all of them, they all cherry pick data.
Yeah.
I got a real problem with data. We had the labor statistics in the U.S. manipulated, and then it was come out and said, "Oh, it was 800,000 jobs that were reported." And then J.P. Morgan came out and said it was closer to 1.3 million jobs that were falsely created. This is me not wanting to look at data anymore from the EIA, the IEA, all these agencies. This is me looking at data, guys. I got an example. Okay, here we go. This is me. I'm sniffing data. Oh my goodness. That is me.
Poor dog.
Poor puppy.
That is how I feel about our data that we're supposed to be using.
Yeah,
Well, I think that
imagine data getting manipulated.
yeah, and it's like that throughout, like even with the IPCC and Roger Pilkey Jr. is always going, you know, you s- it it doesn't say what you think it says, right? And so
Yeah.
they'll say that there's all these extreme storms and all this different kind of extreme weather, and he'll go through and say, well, actually, no, that's not what these different studies and stuff say. And it's the same thing with these new attribution studies where sometimes it's not even cherry picking data. It's not even looking at possible alternative explanations. They have one explanation and they throw everything in to prove that one explanation. That is the use of oil and gas that has created forest fires and coral bleaching and drying out the air and all this different kinds of stuff. And when, there's lots of other potential reasons for that. And it's this intellectual laziness. And it's not just laziness. There's also, I think, some malevolence there too, because it's a
Yes,
deliberate
because they
exclusion.
get paid for it.
So true. Yeah.
Roger Pilkey is a very dangerous man. Thanks for mentioning him because he knows the stuff. He is an actual literal expert.
But they say he's not an expert. It's like,
Well, of
are you
course,
an
because
expert
he
in
was
this little
great.
thing?
Well, experts are only the ones who sing in the choir. If you
Yeah.
do not sing in the choir, your credentials are questionable.
Yeah, for sure.
It's
For
really
sure.
pathetic. And I can't believe all these people keep doing it and embarrassing themselves. It's embarrassing. I mean, how greedy can you be to stoop so low?
I I
Shameless.
I have a hard enough time just keeping my own act together, let alone trying to validate, things that are out there. I try to put the right stuff out there, but it's like having ethics.
Yeah.
I've told my company, we will not advertise on Meta platforms, on Facebook or Instagram, because of their stance of not protecting children. They are a child platform of misinformation and allowing for child trafficking. I will not support that platform. I've got to have some kind of ethics, period.
Yes,
Sorry.
yes, ethics is the word that
Yeah,
is
ethics and being intellectually honest, right? I mean,
Thank
that's
some semblance of integrity. Like there was this group of so-called climate scientists. I still don't know what climate science means as opposed to meteorology. We used to have meteorologists. Now, meteorologists apparently are not allowed to talk about climate change because they're not experts. But anyway, so there's this group of climate activists posing as scientists saying that there were going to be 33 hurricanes this hurricane season in the Atlantic.
that's right.
And there have been just 5. And the season is about, finishing, ending. Where are the storms, the hurricanes? Nobody cares about that. They believe, this is what really, really gets me. These people, these agitprop commissars, think that we can't remember for more than 2 days. And they're right. People tend to forget.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's really sad that we have such a short memory.
Yes.
I talk to people and it's like, oh, it's so hot. I'm like, but it's hot every year. And it's been hotter before, 20 years ago. And these things go in cycles. And to just try to get people to remember these things go in cycles. But if you're a younger person and everything's on your phone, they don't remember. So then they Google it. And what's the first thing?
There's a summer every year.
Well, how hot was it? Oh, and then the headline comes up, and even though like in the UK they're terrible. Well, they'll say it's going to be 32 and it's like 25. But that headline stays, and so when someone Googles it the next year, that headline comes up. And it doesn't matter, people forget that it was wrong, but that's now locked in. It's not like they go back and change that headline. So there's this sort of layering, I would say, over the past 10 years of these false headlines where they get it wrong. But then if people are looking back, I'm just going to check because what was it last year or 2 years ago? They get the wrong information. But now that's forming part of their memory, and their memories are being changed by what they're searching now. I mean, it's crazy.
This is a tragedy.
Yeah.
This is a real tragedy.
No memory.
It's
in the memory hole.
It's manufactured memory, and it's very, very dangerous because so many people are going to develop, and they are already developing mental conditions. They're developing climate anxiety.
Right. And this would just reinforce that, right? Because, oh my gosh, if I look back, it's always been a catastrophe. So, yeah, it's well, people like this year in Canada and Saskatchewan, August has been quite wet. And normally it's not like that. But so people are like, are they going to remember that next year when it's normally hot? Be like, will you remember that last year it was wet? I don't know.
Canada really intrigues me. I love Canada. Absolutely love Canada. I used to ski at Mount Tremblant up north of the Quebec area all the time. Loved the run. I always wore a Canadian flag hat. So when I do something stupid when I skied in the United States, people, oh, he's Canadian. So, I love Canada, but I don't get why Alberta is making so much money for the provinces and they ship all their money back east and then they get treated like dirt. I don't get it.
I know. We don't get it either. It's part of the equalization system here where they decided because some regions were poorer than others that the richer ones would chip in and try to elevate the ones who didn't have such a strong economy. But what it's turned out,
that's great. But don't spit on the people who feed you. Perhaps.
Right. Except that Quebec is by far the largest recipient of this equalization money, and they don't really need it. So there's certain things that they don't count in the formula that generates a lot of income for Quebec. So that's just excluded from the formula. And then they get, they want to keep Alberta's oil and gas in the ground, but still get the money from its development. It's one of the crazy things about Canada that they've been trying to change the formula, but you need to have the agreement of all these different provinces. And the federal government, I think it was last year, just unilaterally said, nope, we're going to keep it the way it is. So,
And thanks for playing.
and thanks for playing. Thanks for the money. Thanks. Thanks.
We'll still hate you and try to run you into the ground.
Do you think
Yeah.
We don't like you.
do you think the Albertan or the government is an attitude like a cat? I don't care what you think.
You mean the federal government in Canada?
Did you just insult cats?
Yes, I did.
Yeah.
Okay.
Come on.
Like
I
this.
don't think I approve of this.
I mean, the cat.
Aw.
Don't.
He's being loving.
Oh, but
He's
they're
being so
smothering.
cute.
He's smothering that poor lizard with policies. And he's
It's
going,
fine.
no, dude, you're my scratching.
No, you've insulted cats by saying that Justin Trudeau's Liberal NDP coalition government is like a cat.
I'm sorry.
No, I think they're more like the lizard.
Oh, nice. Okay, that's what I meant to do.
They shed their skin when they need to try and get more votes, and yeah.
Cats are funny. I love Catter Day.
And they don't care what happens around them and what happens to them.
Yeah.
Catter
I
Day.
like
What is like criticism to the Trudeau government? They don't care.
they don't care. I like it when the cats when there's something on the table and they just have to take their paw and push it off.
Absolutely.
I like that. So that's always
That's
funny.
why it's there.
Yeah. Just for their amusement.
I always happen to have mentally challenged, or I don't want to use the word retarded because I don't want to offend any retarded people out there, but I
They
always
will
have
know you offended them.
Yeah, already offended.
the
We're
cats.
talking about politicians. I just want to make sure
Oh,
we're not
thank you.
talking about people with actual mental conditions. We're talking
Thank
about
you.
politicians.
No, politicians are not human. They're all aliens anyway.
Yeah, they are biologically.
It takes a special
Unfortunately,
kind.
we
Yeah.
need to accept the hard facts. You know,
Hey,
give them an
please.
example.
Should we talk about
Please.
that one story that you brought up? This one really kind of got me all worked up.
Oh yes.
Okay, so in the province of Saskatchewan in Canada, which has a great deal of coal, oil, uranium, because the federal government in Ottawa is telling all the provinces, which they can't do, that they have to change how they generate their electricity. There's a state energy company called Sask Power, and they're being pushed and pressured by Ottawa to get rid of the coal that we have in abundance, get rid of the natural gas that we have in abundance, and invest in wind and solar. And so the state company wants to push all of these new wind and solar facilities. So they put on their blog misconceptions about wind and solar facilities. And this has got to be the most egregious thing of misinformation I've seen in a long time. And it got Stu all riled up.
Oh man, both of my hairs are on end on this.
Rightly.
I mean, this is terrible. It says, if I could read this for our podcast listeners, when it comes to cost over their entire lifespan, the average cost of large-scale solar and wind generation is less than other power sources.
Which is not true.
Excuse me.
Which is not true.
I have
Demonstrably
a
not true.
hairball the size of my cat. I'm about to throw up on this. This is disgusting. If it is true, why is Germany going through a massive deindustrialization? Why is California 2.5 times and New York 2.5 times more costly than the rest of the United States?
Yeah.
And then when we see a massive decrease in demand in California, it's because businesses are leaving.
Yeah.
There is a formula that is hard and fast. The more electricity you need, the better your economy is doing because of business, period. It is, that's a fact. Anyway, the U.S. has wasted 1.5 trillion on wind and solar. For that money, a little more than 10% of our electricity comes from wind and solar. 1.5 trillion. We are in so much debt. That poor lizard is the debt in our GDP. Let me show this again for our listeners. Okay, pretend the cat is our financial problems. Pow! There we are. I mean, that is the debt of the U.S. And there's the average taxpayers, that poor lizard laying there getting rolled over on. Sorry.
Yeah, but you're in so much debt that you don't care anymore. You need to keep getting even more debt. You're past the point of return. Sorry.
Yeah, I was just going to say, for the people who are listening on podcasts and not seeing the video, Stu has this great little clip of a very cute cat rolling around a lizard, rolling over it, licking it, pawing it, and just having a great time.
And the lizard is going, man, I'm a scratching post. I'm okay with that. I think it was really cute. And when you take a look at these questions, if we go through some of these, do wind and solar facility, I'm going to answer these in writing, Tammy. I'm going to take these out and I'm going to respond to these in writing. And I want to take this question. Don't wind and solar projects have short lifespans? Reality. This is from the article. Reality. The average lifespan of newer wind turbines is more than 30 years. Bullhockey. Bullcrap. Sorry, did I say that? For solar capacity, it's also 25 to 30 years with good maintenance can be prevented longer.
Yeah, sure. Let's have a solar installation that lasts 50 years.
Okay. 4 years with subsidies, and then they start coming in and they start redoing the maintenance on it. Wind and solar are not fiscally capable of sustaining themselves from day one without subsidies or tax incentives, period.
Yeah, but they're probably talking about materials. And I do know there are solar installations that have been working here in Bulgaria for 20 years and they're still generating. But this is more of an exception than a rule.
Exactly.
Because of what you're saying, because of the cost, because of the financial side of the whole thing.
Solar is different than wind in many ways. However, in Texas, we have this thing called hail.
Yeah.
And I mean, hail destroys these things. I've got videos of those as well, too.
Well, this is for Saskatchewan. And Saskatchewan, like just last week, we had a hailstorm come through. And in some places, the hail was as big as golf balls. So what does that do to a solar installation? And it wasn't, that we got the hail here in the yard, and there's a new wind and solar project they want to set up about 20 miles from us. Well, it would have been within the swath of the hailstorm, and we have tornadoes. We're part of the North American Tornado Alley. So how do they think this is going to work? And when you talk about the reliability and how long the wind turbines last, for example, have they not seen what happened to Siemens Gamesa? That they had to do this write down because the nacelles and the functioning parts within were wearing out significantly faster than they anticipated. So it put the company into jeopardy because things weren't lasting and they were on the hook for the maintenance, like to fix it. So
maintenance is one of the biggest failing points for the great art. We have some great energy companies in the United States. Duke Energy and others are trying to do, as utilities, doing the best they can to adhere to the regulatory issues. But natural gas is coming in, and they're having to fight to get those in, and they're putting them in because of our beloved rule that they're saying we're putting in natural gas plants to make up for the solar and wind that we cannot use because they're hydrogen ready. And I love this one. Hydrogen ready.
The hydrogen ready. Yeah.
They're suddenly available. And
It's the new buzzword.
yes, and
Nothing.
we're going to create the Energy Realities car. And we're not going to call it, we're going to call it, the Fred Flintstone or something. We're not going to call it the Hindenburg, because hydrogen ready is scary.
Well, there was that article in the Wall Street Journal, I think it was, where they were talking about that they keep saying they can repurpose oil and gas pipelines for hydrogen. And a new study came out and said, no, not going to work.
The other one, the levelized cost of electricity, wind or solar, the marginal cost of natural gas is about 20 megawatts per hour in the U.S. The levelized cost of electricity of wind or solar is averaging $100 a megawatt hour, or 5 times more. 5 times. Facts, fiscal responsibility, and physics matter to the grid. You ignore those and you get blackouts. What is the U.S. facing? And those facts matter. So that, I mean, I'm going to respond to this in writing. This is absolutely
I would love that.
pathetic. I got both my hairs worked up.
If can I just read one more there? It says, is it true they're costly and wasteful to dispose of? And they're referring to wind and solar. Yes, actually it is. And Stu, I can't quite read it there.
Okay.
What's their reality? What do they say?
Reality says up to 90%. This one got me so worked up. I had more than a hairball. Up to 90% of wind turbine parts, including the steel, are recyclable after they're taken apart. Recycling of solar panels is currently an emerging industry in Canada. Some provinces like Alberta have even started programs to reclaim expired solar panels. By the time our first large-scale solar facility reaches end of life, we expect the industry will be fully developed.
They expect. Oh, isn't that sweet?
Wow.
There's data showing that solar and wind is more harmful to the environment than is nuclear.
Yeah.
You can put a nuclear waste of an entire person's life right here in a cup.
Yeah, I know.
Yes, because there are disposal technologies that have been developed over decades to make disposal, storage, and recycling or whatever as safe as possible, because they know what they're dealing with.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the waste components of toxicity, speaking from Texas, Oklahoma, inbred person here, toxicity, is really a bad kind of a thing, because the amount of harmful chemicals that are in the solar panels this is the part that I find, as a hypocritical U.S. citizen, despicable. We are shipping our solar panels overseas and throwing them on other people's shores. And it makes me airsick that we're doing that.
Yeah. And I mean, it's an emergent way of recycling. Okay, emergent, just like hydrogen is emergent. Like all of these different things are emergent. It's somewhere down the future.
That's what the Hindenburg said. The Hindenburg said, "Oh, this is an emergent technology."
Well, and one of the interesting things is they only talk about the tower and the nacelle. They don't really talk about the blades too much.
Yeah.
And they don't talk about the foundation, because those concrete foundations, I was reading one of the proposals and they said, well, we will take apart the top meter of the concrete. I'm like, okay, what about the rest? What about the rest of it?
Are you going to reclaim the land then and return it to a natural state, as I've read that oil sands operators are doing in Canada?
Yeah, they have to.
It's
that.
Right. And they're doing it because it's possible.
Right, and a lot of these wind companies, but by the time the 20 years or 15 years, whatever it is, comes up, they tend to go into receivership. And
Oh,
then if they're a numbered company or something like that, they just claim, oh, well, we're out of money, and we don't have money to clean it up like we promised. And so then it's left to the landowner to clean it up. So you're a farmer, you've been getting a little bit of money every year for the installation, but now you're left stuck with decommissioning the turbine and cleaning up the land. It's very dangerous for farmers.
Oh, absolutely. I've got several of those. Aren't they a danger to? Here's another one question in here. Aren't they a danger to birds and wildlife? Reality. Many steps have taken birds and wildlife. Each proposed location assesses to make sure they're built to have less environmental impact. This includes the impact of birds and bats. Hog
liberation.
stand wash.
Yeah,
What does that mean? What does that mean?
it
It
means
means
nothing. It's hogwash.
it's hogwash, total hogwash.
This is
Many
unbelievably
steps are
pathetic.
taken. Yeah.
Let me show this one wildlife video here real quick. This is a 1 minute video.
Are we going to
Survey
get more
team recently
depressed?
detected the presence of critically endangered right whales southwest of Martha's Vineyard. Ocean currents have spread the floating foam and fiberglass from the Vineyard Wind blade failure into the same area where these whales are now feeding and socializing. Recent studies demonstrate that right whales use smell, not sight, to identify their food. To a right whale, degrading plastic may smell a lot like zooplankton, the food they eat. What if they mistake the shattered blade debris still floating on the surface for food? What will happen when a right whale consumes the foam or fiberglass? Whales won't be the only ones ingesting the plastic debris. The foam and fiberglass could make their way through the marine food chain from oysters to stripers and eventually end up on our dinner table.
That is only
Wow.
one small little tiny video that of stuff that is out there that I've got. Captain Kerry Kelly is absolutely a national world treasure on cleaning up the. I'm getting him on the podcast, and he is phenomenal about the data that is out there on how bad the wind farms are on birds, whales, bats, and it's actually not just the blades hitting them, it's the vacuum that they get
Yeah.
killed as they come through.
Yeah. Well, and I want to add, so we're in Saskatchewan where this story came out. It's a big farming area, and they want to put these wind turbines and solar panels on prime farmland and really good farmland, maybe where there's ranching and whatnot going on. But it's where they also want to stick it where there's the migratory routes of the birds and the insects. So the monarch butterflies, a lot of different insects, they migrate across those areas, and the insects help pollinate the crops that we grow in Saskatchewan and feed the world. And what happened in Germany was that the engineers found that the wind turbines were losing their efficiency because they were filled with insect guts. And they were blaming this insect apocalypse in Europe on farming. And the engineer said, actually, we've crunched the numbers, and we think that the German wind farms, where they were situated in the air currents, were actually responsible for the insect apocalypse. And the state did nothing to address that issue. They just kept blaming the farmers. So if you want to stick wind turbines up into a farming area, be prepared to lose your insects that help pollinate your crops
Wow.
and feed the birds. So
We need
this is
nature.
we need nature. And what happened to environmentalists are supposed to protect nature and biodiversity, but yet they're happy to slaughter birds and bats and insects, the insects that feed the birds and everything.
Because
Your
it's different.
your
It's
article that you shared with the group was phenomenal, Tammy, on this one.
Yeah, this is Visual Capitalist. I'll be really quick because my stuff's been dominating too much today. So they have, if you look at if you break this down, the food and energy part of commodity exports in the world are almost all of it, really. If you look at, there's the petroleum products, then there's the natural gas, then you've got the crops, and then you have the livestock. And, food and energy, the pillars that make the world go round. We need to eat and we need energy. And this is just a brilliant chart for the people who are listening from Visual Capitalist. 5 trillion in commodity exports in the world.
Wow.
What did you guys think of that one?
I
trying to
liked
see.
it. Natural gas, coal, and electricity at 4.154 billion, I thought was a little low off of the numbers. So I thought that it was more than that, depending on how they ranked in petroleum products.
Right.
So
So, but between petroleum products and the little natural gas thing they've got there, it's almost 2 trillion.
right.
And then when they had like the crops were 1.2 trillion and livestock was almost half a trillion. So quite a lot there.
It's pretty obvious when you think about it, but Visual Capitalists is doing a great job visualizing it, beyond the shadow of a doubt. This is how the world looks. This is how we survive.
Exactly.
We wouldn't be able
That's
to survive without these.
Exactly. Yeah. And they're
I'm
brilliant.
just still trying to wrap my head about the fact that Canada will be using prime farmland to build solar panels.
I know.
I'm still trying to get my head around that Texas is, the largest wind and solar provider in the U.S. The only reason we were able to do it and still be affordable is because of our natural gas.
That's right. Yeah. And what's interesting is that, in Texas, yes, you get the odd kind of Arctic freeze that comes through, but in Saskatchewan, if they want to have all this wind and solar, it gets down to minus 40 degrees Celsius here in the wintertime. And
Oh
it's,
yeah, jet wind and solar.
right. And with Dunkelflaute, like, I mean, in the wintertime, it's either super blizzardy or it's calm. And that's not enough to keep your heat on, to run your heat pump if you're forced to have one. It would never keep your house warm enough. So why would they want to invest in something that is going to make their people suffer? Makes no sense.
Irina, I thought this one was great. When we sit
Yeah.
back and we talk about climate, what's the new term of the day?
Claptrap.
Thank you.
Claptrap.
And when we have the organizations that are putting out wrong information, and I interviewed Fritz Brunning one time. He's a data scientist kind of guy that has discovered how they're coming up with all of the warmest days of the year and all this kind of stuff is because they're manipulating the sensors out of Antarctica. There's 23 sensors that they have targeted, the ones that hit -0. Well, if you add 100 degrees to those, it skews the entire world so that we're now the hottest in the entire world now. So this new scheme, though, kind of goes along this, and we're saying, oh, wait a minute, we got to have a new scheme in order to do this. I kind of like this article you had on, was it oil price, I believe?
Yeah. Just work as usual, nothing special. They're just going to do green bonds, methane bonds or something. More money for some financial people to be made. Not really. This is...
It's a scheme. Well, I mean,
I don't know
it's
what to say. Well, they keep coming up with new ways for some people to make money off the transition. That is not happening, but they are still going to make some money.
yeah,
Because
they can't. And with the methane, is it even really a problem? Like, I get if pipelines and wells or whatever are trying to conserve energy, right, or to prevent waste, but this isn't about preventing waste. And if there's fugitive methane emissions, is it really that much of a problem. Methane breaks down into 2 waters and 1 CO2.
Well, apparently it depends because nobody was worried about methane emissions from the Nord Stream explosions.
Right. Yeah.
But
Or
when
from the
business as usual, we are very worried because those pipes leak.
right. And what about the reservoirs from hydro dams? They're massive sources of
Oh
methane.
yes, we discussed this a while ago. Yeah, they
Yeah.
also leak methane.
Yeah.
Yeah, but hydropower is bad, per the European Commission. Kind of, remember those unused dams that have to come down because we don't need them because we've got so much wind and solar. It's
That's right.
exasperating, it's exhausting.
It's exhausting. But we have to keep mentioning it so people remember.
Yes, we need to keep talking about this because that's all we can do.
Yeah.
What's
Wow.
next to you? Yeah.
This one we've been covering a bunch on, which was this one. Um,
Because
tax,
they do.
tax equity financing subsidizes about 50% of the cost of a wind or solar. So this goes back to that other topic that Tammy was really bringing up, that you can't even build these things without the subsidies or the tax financing. They're absolutely worthless. Okay. And so one thing that would really help us a lot is if we could all get along as a society and have the Houthis stop pretending to be climate activists and blowing up tanks. I think
No, but you know what climate activists would say, as Tammy said before the live show started? They just say if we didn't use so much oil and gas, there wouldn't be tankers, wouldn't be targets.
Right.
Argue with that. You can't
Yeah.
argue with that.
I can, but it wouldn't be as much fun. You sit back and kind of think. It's really sad when we think about Irina. It is safer for the economy, or means the ecology, to ship an LNG tanker from Texas to Asia and burn it rather than burn dirty coal. So, my head explodes. I never thought I would think that that's it. One of the things I want to give the Nemeth report and Tammy and Irina Slav, your Substack shout outs, and mine, the Energy News Beat .substack. Look at this as far as Americans' trust in mass media. The mass media is one of the reasons that my podcast is doing so well, and you guys are just phenomenally energy leaders that people need to follow. Look at the Republicans down here at the bottom.
What is wrong with Democrats? It's
Yeah.
I don't get it.
What is wrong with people supporting the Democratic Party?
I cannot believe that they're believing the mainstream media. The biggest fear I have is anybody saying that I'm from the government and I'm here to help you. I don't believe, but mainstream media is helping the small podcasters and helping the other folks.
So that's good for us. Okay.
Good press.
It is really good for us, especially for people that are trusted. People trust Doomberg. People trust
Very good reason.
Yeah.
People trust David Blackman. I mean, it is an amazing thing to be able to have this kind of thing out there. If the mainstream media did their job, we wouldn't have this much fun.
Okay,
Thank you, mainstream media.
Thank you. I would like to say that it reminds me of America's Got Talent and some of these other shows where Simon Cowell is one of the judges, because you'll see some of the judges are always, "Oh, you're so amazing," but all the acts are waiting to hear what Simon Cowell has to say because he's usually realistic, and he'll be like, "No, that wasn't good. You weren't amazing. This wasn't, So we're the Simon Cowells."
Isn't he? I don't watch these shows. I don't watch TV, but I've seen him on Top Gear and elsewhere. Isn't he like the Gordon Ramsay of the talent shows?
Yes.
Okay.
But he's the realistic one, right? So he will tell
Exactly.
you.
That's how you
And
should
that,
be.
right. And so then everybody's always waiting to see what he's going to say because they realize I'm going to get an honest answer from him. I may not like it, but it'll be the honest answer.
And that's the right attitude.
Right.
That's what we
And
should
so,
be saying in this transition, but we're not.
yeah, so I feel like we have that kind of role in just trying to point out the realities. And look, if another energy source comes along that is more reliable and more affordable and better than oil and gas, I will be on that bandwagon. But
Yes.
we're not there. We're not there.
Exactly.
We are not going to get to net zero, not with AI. I think we have got to get to less pollution. And I applaud the move for the discussion going away from net zero, because net zero is not going to happen with AI.
Yeah, but we already dealt with pollution. I mean, people are trying and succeeding in reducing pollution. We've done a lot to reduce
Yes.
pollution. So
Yeah.
it's not trendy anymore. It's not, you know,
Then
it's
what?
not fancy, it's not interesting.
Yeah, I mean, if you go to humanprogress.org, which I think is Marion Tupy's site, they show, if you look at over the past 40 or 50 years, the pollution levels in the Western world are like that 10% drop that you see on this chart that Stu has. But it's been this absolute nosedive in cleaning up water,
Great.
cleaning up air, cleaning up soil, all that different kinds of stuff. And it's like, okay, well, we're now onto that last 5% or something, which is really difficult. And I don't think you could ever be perfect. But it's like they're pretending it's not even happening or hasn't happened. And we have to double down on whatever. And like Irina said, it's not interesting anymore. It's not interesting to do that
Is it
because
like piling bricks on like this guy? So we are working as not journalists. I'm not a journalist. I'm more of a game show host. But if
And
you,
you're great at it.
well, thank you very
yeah,
much. Thank you. But look at this poor guy. I feel
poor
like
guy.
this at the time. I'm trying to tell the truth out there, and you keep putting on there, and you keep going. Wait a minute. Now look at the guy that comes up behind him and starts looking at him, going,
But what excellent balance. I
"Look at him."
admire the balance.
He's going, I got to do that. Now watch the boss. Oh, you missed two. And
Missed
now he's
two.
looking, and now he looks and he's looking and he's going, nope, you got to add more on there.
Just evidence that if you're good at something, you'll be given more work.
Yes. And I think of the compression on his spine. That can't be good.
No.
Wow. I'm in awe of every day of people that actually do those kind of things.
That's why they didn't have oil and gas, so they didn't have tractors and forklifts and stuff like that. They had to use human labor.
Yeah.
I think I'd rather have the forklift run by hydrocarbons or something.
I think we all would. That guy would, for
Oh,
sure.
absolutely. And the hydrocarbons, if done correctly, I have to say this, ESG investing has done a great thing for the U.S. Oil and gas industry through the governance side of things, in making sure that they gave money back to their investors and cleaning up the environment. We have less flaring going on in the U.S. than we ever have in the rest of the world. Go to the fields in Iran, and man, they're flaring like you wouldn't believe. I mean,
Well, and the Saudis have improved a lot because they used to flare
yeah,
all the time. It was really criminal, actually, and they've really improved um, that situation. And same thing in Canada. So yeah, there can be benefits to that, and I think it's more not just about the environment, but also conservation of the resource. Why are you wasting it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
what a great day. Thank
Lazy
you.
is that.
Thanks. Well, Stu, I'm gonna hold you to it. Do the rebuttal.
Yes,
Of
do
the,
that. And Tammy, you gave me a wonderful idea for the Simon Cowells of this world. I'm going to write a substack about it. We are the
awesome.
Simon Cowells and Gordon Ramsays of the world.
Yes,
I like it.
absolutely. With less profanity.
We are going to
Not
have
in
a
my
great.
case, not in my head, but yeah. Sure.
we are going to have a great week, guys. Thank you all very much.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Okay.
everybody.
Great day. See you next
Bye-bye.
Monday. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.